ready to get started. I can call a quorum whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Your stream is live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our MAG Transportation Safety Committee meeting. I apologize, took a little bit to find the mute button. All right, to start off, we'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting today. Sorry, I'm jumping from another meeting, just a little. So we'd like to start off with and find quorum today. And if we can have everyone call for quorum. Margaret, could you take quorum for us, please?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Before I do, I'd like to welcome two new members to the Safety Committee, Chris Salas from Florence. And
you guys hear me
Hartman.
okay? I got had a note that my microphone wasn't working.
We can hear you fine, Carrie.
Excellent.
I'd also like to welcome Tara Hartman from Pinal County. She is the representative now, newly designated representative from the Pinal County. So with that, when I call your name, if you could please unmute and let me know that you are indeed present. Carrie Wilcoxon.
Present.
Shane Kiso.
I am present.
Tom Peterson. John Willett.
Present.
Raymond.
Present.
Nick Russo. Chris Salas.
Present.
Aaron Pinkerton.
Present.
Tony Abbo.
Present.
Matthew Reed.
Present.
Woody Scouten. Josh Plum. Mazen Muradovic for Nicholas Swart.
Present.
Ryan Hudson.
I am present.
Brandon Forey.
Present.
Carl Langford.
Present.
Tara Hartman.
Present.
Mohammed Yusuf.
Present. Present.
Thank you. Sam Taylor.
Present.
Dana Ossiani.
Hi, I'm here, but I can't unmute.
It looks like you were successful. Thank you. Kathy Hollow.
Yes, I'm here.
Adrian Ruiz. And Jeff King is not able to join us today. Alberto Gutierrez. And with that, Mr. Chair, we do have quorum.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, everyone. So quorum is now present. Meeting is officially called to order at this time. We'd like to remind everyone to please stay muted if you can for the meeting. If you do need to unmute and speak, go ahead and do so for it. Next item is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting held December 17th in 2020.
Chairman, I think I called in last time in November the 17th, and it marked me as a not present. This is Raymond with China.
So noted, Raymond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. Does anyone else from the Transportation Safety Committee have any comments or revisions? All right. Could I have a motion to recommend approval of the November 17th, 2020 meeting minutes?
Carl, I'll make a motion. This is Kathy.
Thank you,
Motion to
Kathy. Did I hear somebody making a second?
This is Raymond with China. A second.
All right, excellent. Thank you. We now need to call for a vote of the motion. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. And if you're abstaining, let us know. Margaret, do we need to do that person by person?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chair. I'll go ahead and do that now. Carrie Wilcoxon,
Aye.
Shane Kiso,
Aye.
Tom Peterson, John Willett,
Aye.
Raymond,
Aye.
Nick Russo, Chris Solis,
Aye.
Aaron Pinkerton,
Aye.
Tony Abbo,
Aye.
Matthew Reed,
Aye.
Woody Skelton, Josh Plum, Maza Muradovic,
Aye.
Ryan Hudson,
Aye.
Brandon Forey,
Aye.
Carl Langford,
Aye.
Tara Hartman,
Our Chair and Margaret, I'm going to abstain at this time since I wasn't at the last meeting.
so noted, thank you. Mohammed Yusuf,
Abstain.
Sam Taylor,
Aye.
Dana Ossiani,
Aye.
Kathy Hollow,
Aye.
Adrian Ruiz, and Alberto Gutierrez. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you all. Our next item of business today is the call to the audience. So members of the public were asked to submit written comments related to this meeting through the MAG website. Comments may be sent at any time leading up to the meeting, but must have been received at least prior to the meeting for us to post them. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion or not for action. MAG staff, have we received any of the public comments so far? And if so, could you please read them?
Mr. Chair, we have received no comments for this or any other item.
All right, sounds good. Moving on to the next item. We have the program manager's report. So this is for information for the Transportation Safety Committee meeting at this time. So Margaret, you can go ahead and proceed with the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. I have three items to share with you today. The first is an item that was presented again during the program manager's report in November. This is an effort that Dr. Ross from ASU and Chris Gottsacker from MAG staff provided a brief presentation. We started out with, the question that, the Safe Routes to School studies. This is a comment that we get from a lot of our member agencies that have had the Safe Routes to School studies conducted. They're great, but what's our next step, and how can we, MAG, help you all get to that next step? So as we had mentioned, MAG and safety staff, as well as ASU, have identified a new opportunity with the overarching goal of and responsibility of improving safety for children walking and biking to school. Is a socioeconomically in socioeconomically disadvantaged areas. ASU has set their sights on two upcoming grants. One would provide for creation of a Safe Routes to School dashboard, and other would provide for its implementation and testing by selected communities. These are still relatively long-term projects, and we hope to work on those here this spring. So as we mentioned, the focus of the two grants really is to improve safety of children walking and biking to school, with the overall goal of bridging that gap between the study completion and implementation of key and very important improvements. So just a quick update. I know that one of the grants has already been submitted. One is due to be submitted upcoming here in the spring. In the summer, we will start development of the portal. Spring 2020, after the grant, hopefully we receive the grant and we can start doing the data integration and some community input. And then we're going to start the pilots in implementation pilots in the spring of 2023. And we hope to kind of continue this on into the future. So when one of our last meetings with ASU, they had indicated to us that they have enough right now to at least get us what might look like a primer for the portal that they can develop regardless of the fact that we don't yet have the grant funds, just to share with the committee and member agencies what that might look like moving forward. So the second item, again, just kind of a reminder about our schedule for our committee meetings this year. Consistent with previous years, we hold the Transportation Safety Committee meetings on the fourth Tuesday of every odd month, typically at 10 a.m. And we are going to be continuing virtually until further notice, unless we indicate otherwise. The only exception here is November. We move that to the third Tuesday of the month due to the Thanksgiving holiday. And we usually start a little bit earlier, as you may remember. That's typically the month that we do our project evaluations. The third.
Sorry, Margaret, I hate to interrupt you. The May meeting showed May 35th there.
Thank you very much.
Sure, you're welcome. Which day would that be?
I believe it's going to be the 25th. Let me look really quick here.
Thank you.
Mazen, we decided that May was so nice that we're going to extend it a little bit. Who wants to rush into June in Arizona?
I hear you.
Yes, that would be May 25th.
Thanks. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you. And Mazen, while you're bringing that up, do we have any new date for the ITE IMSA conference?
The latest I have on my agenda is May 11th through 13th, and we're still coordinating the platform there. It seems to be going to be virtual, but I'm also having to coordinate with the committee about the safety forum, which I believe is going to be on Thursday, but I'll have to confirm. But now it's definitely moving into the May deadline.
Okay, so this meeting would not be in conflict with that. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to some reports on some project updates for fiscal year 2021, as we've been discussing with regard to the Safe Routes to School studies. We are going to be getting those going for the fiscal year 2021 Safe Routes to School studies. We're going to be taking a look at the scopes and moving forward, kind of tweaking the scopes a little bit to be more friendly to our virtual platforms. So we just want to make sure that we're accommodating the needs of the schools, the local agencies, and the school districts moving forward. The fiscal year 2020 road safety assessments, you may remember that we had 5 scheduled for fiscal year 2020. We were able to complete one of those road safety assessments. MAG staff is going to be moving forward, and you're going to hear a little bit more about this when Mohammed talks about the new top 100 list on potential strategies to move forward with completing the fiscal year 20 road safety assessments, as well as identifying the locations for the fiscal year 21 road safety assessments. Similarly, we are coming completion nearly of the Cave Creek Local Agency Safety Study. That was a pedestrian focused safety study. There's another one that's being coordinated to be carried out for the city of Glendale. Moving on, this is the CINI Arizona program that we will be administering. We had received an amendment, some budget as well to administer the first year of that program. What we are in the process of doing now is we put a request for proposals out sometime, I think it was a couple days before Christmas. We have convened a evaluation team that has been reviewing the proposal this week, and we'll be meeting with that team to kind of see if we're going to move forward with the selected consultant. That will go to, we anticipate that going to Regional Council Executive Committee in February, and then turning right around and putting the selected firm under contract. The solicitation was mainly for a firm that can do the media buys, the before and after surveys, and this would be done ahead of the pilot. So it's kind of a couple of different things going on here. The pilots are going to be done in partnership with member agency enforcement activities. And so we want to get a really big media push and the before surveys done before the pilots are conducted. The pilots themselves are anticipated to be conducted in April of this year, as well as in, I believe, October. So we really are planning for a couple of different pilot activities every year moving forward. And this contract will kind of help us facilitate the program as a whole. So on the bicycle and pedestrian near miss analysis, we again, kind of similar to the discussions with regarding the road safety assessments, we are formulating a strategy to move forward with those as well. We want to get those going. These are utilizing some emerging technology analytics to assess near misses, and these in particular will be at the major arterial crossings where we have light rail stations currently. So then we have another cycle of those for fiscal year 2022. So we're kind of anxious to get those going as well. So hopefully we can come up with something to move forward here soon. The fiscal year 2021 predictive safety framework, again, we are in close coordination with ADOT on the work that they're doing. And so we felt it best and would be to the best benefit, not just of the region, but in coordination and partnership with ADOT to pick up that work again sometime this spring when their work is a little bit more complete. And then moving on to the work that's being done on the development of the Strategic Transportation Safety Plan. MAG staff spent a lot of time the past 4 or 5 weeks really digging into the implementation plan, as well as the draft task reports. This will continue with review of the implementation plan as well as the draft task reports by both the stakeholders group as well as members of this committee. After today's meeting, I'll send you links to where those are located. The implementation plan itself, there's a little bit of work being done on that right now by the consultant, and so you may not see that until the end of this week. So look for a couple of emails regarding that. One thing I did want to mention about the implementation plan is the mind frame we really tried to put ourselves in is that these should be strategies that can be implemented by MAG and member agencies in partnership with MAG. So when you go through and review those, keep those things in mind. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Input on the draft task reports will also help inform the development of the strategic plan, the final plan document. So your input would be really important to get. So if you can review those, please forward any comments or questions you might have by February 8th. The consultant will incorporate your input and deliver the final plan to MAG staff by February 22nd. So what we're looking for here is to anticipate the final plan to be on the March Safety Committee agenda for possible action to recommend approval of the plan. And with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Anyone having any questions, please feel free to email or contact Margaret Herrera afterwards. This time we will go on to item number 5. And this item is on the agenda for information and discussion. The MAG network screening methodology for intersections was developed and adopted by the committee in January 2010 with a modification to the crash risk formula adopted in 2014. The application of this methodology for the most recent 5 years of intersection crash data produced a complete list of intersections ranked by crash risk. The list was distributed for review by member agencies having locations on the list. This ranked list is published by MAG upon review by the committee. MAG staff will provide a review of the new list to be posted on the MAG webpage. Some key findings from comparisons with last year's list and next steps relating to the roadway safety assessment program will be presented this time. So at this time, we'd like to turn it over to Mohammed from MAG for more information on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and member of the Transportation Safety Committee. At this point, I would like to provide a brief overview of the latest intersection network screening list that we have come up with using the latest 5 years of crash data available, which is from 2015 to 2019. As you have already seen the top 100 list that we have distributed to the concerned local agencies, the top 100 intersections in the latest list has a 90% of the locations were already on the previous top 100, which was using crash data from 2014 to 2018, and 10% are new location in the current top 100 list. And also of the 90% that are in the that were in the previous list, 56% ranked lower and 44% ranked higher compared to the ranking in the previous list. The greatest jump in the ranking was from 162 in the previous list to ranking 74 in the current list, and greatest drop in the ranking was from 39 in the previous list to 90 in the current list. If you can go to the next slide, Mr. Chair, Margaret. Yeah. So when we take a very high level look at the top 50 and top 10 of the current list, as you can see, the current top 50 compared to the previous list, which is 2014 to 2018. So the current top 50, out of the 50, 49 already were in the previous list. And of those 50 in the current list, 28 ranked higher and 22 of the intersections ranked lower. And when we compare the current top 10 to the previous top 10 in the list comprising data from 2014 to 2018, we saw that 7 were also on the previous top 10, and 7 actually ranked higher in the top 10 compared to the previous one. And 2 of the top 10 in the current list were from previous top 50, and 1 ranking was unchanged. So basically 1 intersection ranking was unchanged in the top 10 in the current list when compared to the previous top 10 in the previous list. If you go to the next slide. So at this point, as our Transportation Safety Program Manager, Margaret, said, we are brainstorming internally to come up with ideas and strategies and on how to move forward with the RSAs and complete those RSAs within the by the end of this fiscal year. So what we are planning to do is we are planning to convene a summit. The main idea of this summit will be to get input from the local agencies on how to conduct the RSS during this changed condition in this pandemic. And some of the information that we would like to discuss in that summit is how our peers are also conducting the safety studies or safety audits under these change circumstances. And based on that discussion, there might be some possible modification to the RSA process. And based on those ideas and suggestions and recommendations and input, we would like to resume the 2020 RSS and apply the same procedures to complete the RSAs, which will be identified for the fiscal year 2021. So for that, please keep an eye in your inbox. We will be sending a survey link for doing a doodle poll to know your availability about the this summit, possible dates for summit. So we'll be sending that shortly, and we are planning to convene the summit as soon as we can, probably sometimes within early February. So please keep an eye in your inbox for a link for a doodle poll to identify dates for this upcoming summit. And next slide, please. And as you already know, the attachment 2 that reflects the top 100 list reviewed by the local agencies that will be uploaded to the MAC webpage soon. And for the latest top 100 intersection list, will be forming a RSA working group consisting of representatives from agencies with locations on the list, volunteers, and other interested. And then based on the inputs from the RSA working group, we will be going forward to identify 2021 RSA locations or corridors on which we would be conducting the road safety audits. At this point, based on the review of your locations in the top 100, agencies can request to MAG for their network screening result within their jurisdiction using the latest 5 years of data. We would be happy to provide that to you. And based on the summit that we are planning to convene, we will be incorporating the summit recommendations also in the FY 2021 RSS, as I previously stated. With that, next slide, please, Margaret. If you have any questions at this point of time, we would be happy to answer regarding this.
We don't all need to speak at once. Anybody have any further questions or discussion on this item? Right. Thank you, Mohammed, for your presentation. We appreciate that. Seeing as how we have no comments, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 6, the ADOT statewide network screening. So this item is on the agenda for information discussion. ADOT staff will provide a review of the statewide network screening of high fatal and serious injury crash locations. So at this time, we'd like to turn it over to, I'm not sure who is doing it from ADOT.
It's Carrie. You might be muted, Carrie. Carrie? we had him earlier.
You see him. You see him.
It worked, Margaret. We muted Carrie.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I've been having some computer problems, but that is that's going to be the tagline for the era that we're in right now. Along with, I can't find the unmute button. So thank you, Mr. Chair, Margaret, members of the committee. We get a chance to talk about this information every year or so. This year we're doing it a little ahead of schedule. We have been trying to run the network screening, statewide network screening for the last 4 or 5 years. Sometime in the early spring, late spring, early summer. This past cycle, though, we wanted to try and bring the network screening closer to the final date of the crash data. So what we are trying to do right now is run, or what we're doing right now is running our network screening with in the year following the most recent year of complete data. This is a 2020 network screening, which includes data up through 2019. And that makes it a little more timely than what we were doing in the past. So this will probably become about the time of year when we present going forward, assuming that we don't get voted off the island anytime soon. So with that, if I go to the next slide. This is the network screening. We're going to talk about the process, which really hasn't changed, but it has been expanded a bit in the reach since last year. And then we'll go over quickly the network screening results for both the state highway system and the local roads. Next slide, please. So as was alluded to, we run our network screening based on fatal and serious injury crashes. We are running a frequency-based network screening, and we're doing so to be in line with both our older HSP, Safety Highway, or Strategic Highway Safety Plan, but also our current STSP, Strategic Traffic Safety Plan, where we are focusing on fatal and serious injury crashes. We are still trying to look at crash rates. But as we've discussed before, getting volume data from a lot of the local agencies is difficult. Not because it doesn't exist, but it is just difficult to coordinate. So during the network screening, we look at our intersections and segments for high fatal and serious injury crashes. As I mentioned, we look at state highway and local system. And then we look for things that can be resolved through actionable measures, either work orders for small minor things, road safety assessments, or planning to programming, or the highway safety improvement program process. Next slide, please. So for this year, we looked at, or for this year's network screening, we looked at the most recent 5 years of data, which went from 2015 through 19. We focused on intersections, both signalized and non-signalized, mile-long segments on the state highway system. And then new to this year, actually, I believe we did it for the first time last year, was locations on the state highway system with high lane departure crashes, and also locations or segments on the state highway system where we had ramps. We wanted to try and bring visibility to all roads, or at least all public roads on the in the state. And then finally, as we've done in previous years, we looked at the most common fatal and serious injury crash types and the most common fatal and serious injury violation types. Next slide, please. As with previous years, after we go through the network screening, we present to everyone in the state highway system, or ADOT. We present to as many COGs and MPOs as will still return our emails. And we look for updates really on what is planned, what is being done. We can't mandate that the local agencies or that action be taken on roads that we don't own, but we do try and make the information available, and we try and make the any updates that were provided, we try and make them or add them to our report. Next slide, please. So the annual report will probably come out sometime in August of 2021, right before the next network screening comes out. The report will inform traffic safety priorities, and specifically this year, we are getting ready for the next call for projects, for HSIP projects. So that will hopefully be able to use some of the information from the network screening. And the eventual goal, as we've mentioned, is to shift from frequency to predictive modeling. Next slide, please. So with that, the December 2020 network screening involved data from 2015 through 2019. And we are looking at the top 5 state highway system locations. We're reviewing for potential for road safety assessments, HSIP, and where they appeared on previous network screening results. We're also developing KMZ files for each location where we can map out the crashes and the crash types. We're using that information to develop crash maps, summary tables, and charts. And then we're developing collision diagrams of the fatal and serious injury crash types. Next slide, please. So it's going to be very difficult for any of you, including myself, to see this, but I will also have it on my screen, so I'll try and go through this as best we can. We are, as I mentioned, we are looking at first non-signalized intersections. We have a list on the state highway system, and while the locations in red are locations that we haven't yet looked at in detail, at least at ADOT, you can see that the locations in green almost always have comments after them, meaning that we've looked at them either as a result of previous network screenings or as a result of previous work, and have action steps being taken to address some of the issues. But this year, if you look at the locations that we are looking at for non-signalized intersections, Grand Avenue intersections jump out on the list. 3 of the 5 that we're going to be looking at involve Grand Avenue here in the Phoenix metro area. The list, like all years, shows not only the ADOT region, the intersection type, but also the primary crash type. And no surprise at these locations, the primary crash type is going to be angle in most cases. Next slide, please. For the locals, we also do the same thing, but we don't get a lot of comments back. And not to put too fine a point on it, we know that work is being done on a lot of these locations. We're just not getting a good record of it. And we want to make sure that the locals know this information as well as they can, just because it's not being made public from our end, but it is being made, it would be discoverable from our end, and we don't want that to look bad. But most of the top unsignalized intersections, again, fall into the metro Phoenix area, and specifically Phoenix. But that's no surprise based on the volumes. And I won't go over the specific locations, but a lot of the non-signalized locations, the primary crash types deal with pedestrians. And you can have a few crashes and end up on this list. If you look at the top 3 locations, in 5 years, they had 6 fatal or serious injury crashes. So that the list moves around quite a bit, or at least the order moves around quite a bit. Next slide, please. Same type of thing on the signalized intersections with the state highway system. Again, each year we go through the same list. A lot of the same locations show up year after year, and we try and address them as we go. So you can see that the top 5 have been addressed as far as previous locations. The next group, though, includes 5 that have not been addressed, and most of these are in the Central Engineering District. So they're again in the Phoenix metro area. Many of these are frontage roads near traffic interchanges. With a lot of complexity of moving movements and things like that. Left turn and angle crashes are the dominant type of crash here or at these locations. And a lot of what ADOT is trying to do here is take a look at the signal timing, the striping in the area, and the visibility. Trying to figure out if there's any improvements we can make, either low cost improvements or something more involved. Next slide, please. Signalized locations on the on the local system, and a high number of crashes in the Phoenix metro area, or locations in the Phoenix metro area. We know that a lot of these areas are being addressed, either ongoing or through special projects. We're just not getting a lot of information back on what is being done on these. But again, the predominant crash type at most of the high crash locations that are signalized on the local system turn out to be left turn crashes, which probably doesn't surprise anybody, or shouldn't surprise anybody. And that may involve, or a solution to that may involve something on the order of signal timing changes or signal equipment changes. But regardless, that seems to be a fairly common theme. Next slide, please. We also, as I mentioned, look at segments on the state highway system. We would like to look at segments on the local system. We don't have the demarcation system in place on the local systems. In other words, we can break up the state highway system by mile posts and break it up into individual units. We can't really do that on the local system. It would be good if we could, but we just don't have the ability to do that. So as a result, we only look at segments on the state highway system. And same thing here, we're looking at a lot of locations in the Metro Phoenix area. A lot of these locations are, or if you look down the list, the primary crash type is pretty consistently rear end crashes, which seems to indicate either congestion related or speed differentials on the main line. And much of these locations are being looked at ongoing, but also as part of our statewide or Maricopa County bottleneck RSA program that is being finished up right now. Next slide, please. Violation types, while we're not going to go into too much detail, these really don't change a whole lot from year to year. We look at violation types for both the state highway system and the local system, in both intersections and segments, at least on the state highway system. Again, speed too fast for condition on segment, failure to yield, round at the top, violation types. We then take a look at individual high crash locations that have these violations, and they typically end up being some of the ones we've already looked at in either our segment or intersection listings. But we also send out RSA teams to look at these as well. Next slide, please. The final location screening that we do are the crash types, where we look at what type of crash is causing the most serious and fatal crashes. And again, there shouldn't be any surprise here, angle and single vehicle. The reason we do this, though, is we want to make sure that if a location with an unusually high number of angle or single vehicle crashes is out there, and it for whatever reason doesn't show up on our list of unsignalized or signalized intersections, we want to make sure that we bring visibility to this as well. So we use this filter to develop an additional list of locations to take a look at. And there's a lot of overlap, obviously. Next slide, please. And then the final two that we're looking at were statewide, our state highway system segments. This was started, as I said, last year, and it was started in response to the fact that this is one of the emphasis areas on our strategic traffic safety plan. So we are looking at locations where lane departures were a big factor. And this actually gives visibility to a lot of our lower or rural, lower volume rural segments. If you remember back on the high segment crash list, most of those appeared to be in the Metro Phoenix area. Most of the crash types were congestion related, things like that, rear end crashes, sideswipe, same direction. When we look at lane departure, though, we start to look at segments that are out in the rural areas of the state. And again, this is with the intent of bringing visibility to segments that may not have the traffic volume, but may have issues out there. And much like the others, we've been looking at this now for a couple of years. We're doing RSAs, we're doing normal restriping, rumble strips, and other lane departure countermeasures, and we're moving down the list. Next slide, please. And then the final area that's new this year, we're bringing visibility to ramps on the state highway system. And again, this is the same issue that why we started looking at lane departure locations. We are trying to make sure that when we look at the crash data statewide, we're bringing visibility to all locations or all public roads within the state. We're looking at them with the same lens, but we're looking at them in groupings that make sense. The ramps on this list, many of them, as you can imagine, are in the Phoenix metro area. We're just starting to look at this, and in the next year, what we're hoping to develop is a methodology for conducting RSAs on ramps. And these would be, at this point, probably virtual RSAs, where we are sending out individuals to the locations to take a look at specific areas. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any final questions. We can go to the next slide.
This is Kerry. This is Mazen with McDowell.
Mazen.
Couple of questions, please. How does ADOT? What does ADOT use for collision diagram? Do they have their own built-in, I guess, app? How do you guys? What do you use to delineate that or present that?
It's a great question, Mazen. It's actually one that causes Saroja to pull her hair out every year when she tries to develop the field reports for these locations. We don't have a program that we use for automatically generating crash diagrams. We have a seat of intersection magic or crash magic, whatever it's called. I'm not a big fan of that, and I don't really like the product that comes out. So one of the things we have been asking our IT group to develop or allow us to develop is a automatic crash diagram program. We actually have HSIP funds set aside for it. We are in the process of getting a consultant on board to do that. But we're hoping to have a program early next year that we can use on our crash diagrams, and by extension, we would make it available to any other municipalities. Hopefully it'll be off of the same common Alice data, so there shouldn't be any adjustments that's needed for any of the other databases.
Very good.
But it's a good question, and it's a source of frustration.
Yeah, understand. Thanks, Gary. One more question, please. I wanted to please understand how ADOT does the intersection-related crashes. Is there a criteria? What exactly the limits of an intersection that you guys consider to be intersection-related crashes?
That is also a good question, and one that I used to deal with or have to deal with in Phoenix as well. Typically, we consider the bounds of an intersection 150-foot radius. In the past, we have used the box, the check mark, intersection related. If it meets those two criteria, then it falls into the category. As most people on the phone know and are familiar with the crash data, the intersection related box doesn't always get checked. So there is some interpretation that goes along with that, but we're still using those two filtering criteria: 150-foot radius and intersection related.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, this is Mohammed from MAG. Kerry, just wanted to get an update about, I know ADOT was in the process of exploring and looking at different HSM software in the nation, and what your peers are implementing or using at this point of time. And as we know, safety analyst will be decommissioned by the end of summer 2022. So has ADOT made any progress, or has ADOT narrowed down on the list of what eventually they will be considering for a HSM software? Because based on what ADOT is deciding to adopt, MAG will also basically focus on getting the data ready to implement the predictive modeling in the coming years.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. We have been looking at this program or looking at a replacement for safety analyst since about, I don't know, I think April of last year. We did a national survey on what other states are using, and we found about a dozen states have programs that they're using that are different than the Numetrics program that will replace safety analyst. If you've seen the demo on the Numetrics, it's a great program. I like it a lot. I've used it. I've had the demos, but it's a little too expensive for what we're looking at, especially in light of what safety analysts used to cost us. So we have been exploring, and I should say ADOT may ultimately end up going with Numetrics, but we have been exploring what other options are out there. And so far we've gotten demos from about 6 or 7 states. We like a lot of the programs that are out there, and most of the programs were developed with public dollars, so they would be transferable, although they would need some work to convert to the ADOT or to the Arizona data set. But that being said, we're working with AASHTO right now, and we'll be doing a series of webinars. These will probably be national webinars. Well, I shouldn't say probably, they will be national webinars where we do a sort of a 1.5 hour program where we get all 12 or 13 states that have a program out there to give sort of a real quick, high-level 5-minute discussion or presentation on their program, sort of a speed dating for predictive modeling. And then we'll follow that up with 30 to 60-minute webinars for each individual state. So you can go to the main one, and anything that strikes your fancy, you can tune into the others and get more details on it. It's primarily for a statewide audience, a DOT audience, but I know that there's going to be a lot of interest from MAG, PAG, a lot of the other COGs and MPOs in the state, as well as nationwide. So we're coordinating that. We're thinking that that first one will probably be sometime in March. And then the others, the individual ones, would be probably weekly going on until we're done. But we are still looking, and we're still trying to get demos. Right now, the one that we seem to like the most is one that was developed by the University of Connecticut for Connecticut DOT. That seems to be the most robust and provide the easiest use For those of you who are familiar with Safety Analyst, while it was a good program, it was very difficult to use, very 1980s.
So just a follow-up question. So do you think these webinars are going to be accessible by the COGS in Arizona?
I would like to make them accessible. In fact, we're trying to figure out if we ADOT can sponsor them, and of course, if we sponsor them, I don't know what our I don't know what the maximum registration is for Google Meets. I think it's 250 or something like that, and we would make it available to anyone.
All right.
Well, anyone but Tony. We would probably not make it available to Tony, but I think everyone knows. I think everyone would support that decision.
Thank you, Kerry.
Sure. Any other questions?
Carrie, this is Margaret. On kind of unrelated, but I think would be of interest to all you. In one of your earlier slides, you talked about use of the network screening ahead of the next call for projects for HSIP. Do you have any update with regard to the next HSIP call for projects?
Yeah, I think the tentative schedule is on our website right now. I believe what we're trying to do is call for projects sometime. I know it's sometime this year, and what we're trying to do, and for those of you who know me and know ADOT really, one of the biggest challenges that we've had is we're asking people who are not necessarily project managers, sometimes not even engineers, to develop a project that is going to be federalized, have all the bells and whistles on it for the federal aid. And then we're asking them to put that in a program that's 5 years out. So as a result, we're ending up with projects that, and by the way, they have to have control of costs so that they can compete with the benefit cost ratio. So what we're ending up with is projects that are not well fleshed out, not well planned out, and they end up short of money. Now, what should happen is if that is the case, then the local agency is on the hook, and they're told they're on the hook for anything over. But ever since we opened up projects that are for statewide competition and increased the amount of money, what's ending up happening is you're getting a local agency that has maybe owes the state another, $500,000, which isn't easy to come up with on a local agency level. So that's a long preamble to the fact that what we're hoping to do this time is get better eyes on the project applications to better flesh out the costs and the specifics involved. We've been putting more and more effort in over the last 3 calls for projects on reviewing the agency applications and making sure that everyone on ADOT and everyone in the local agency is on board with the scope and the projected costs, and then letting them compete. This time, since we're again 5 years out, we're looking at a more detailed review by ADOT on the front end to make sure that when and if this project comes up for design and construction, ADOT is happy that there's enough money there, and we're clear on what the scope is, and we can proceed with the project to get it done and installed. We don't want to turn projects down. We don't want to cut back scope on good projects. We want the projects to be built, but in order for them to be built, we need them to be scoped properly, or as close to properly as possible. So that's a very long answer to your question, but the call for projects is up on our website, and I'm sorry I don't have the dates, but it is going to be sometime, I believe, starting this summer, where we're going to be looking at that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, this is Mohammed. Not a question, but Mr. Chair and member of the Transportation Safety Committee, Margaret, I just wanted to let everyone know that the CMF Crash Clearing House, they have the FHWA have come up with a revised method to rate the CMFs based on what they had previously. So based on the new rating method, there will be 52% of the CMFs that are currently in use unchanged in their star rating, but there will be a significant number of CMFs which will be changed based on this more rigorous rating method that they have come up with. So there will be 2 webinars from FHWA on February 18th and February 23rd to give an overview of this new rating system they have come up with to rate the CMFs. February 18th was the one for the practitioners, and February 23rd is the one for the researchers. So if anyone's interested to know about more this rating method and how the ratings have changed for the CMFs, you can go to the CMF Clearinghouse, register yourself for this free webinar on February 18th.
Thanks. Good information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie, and those that have helped participate on this discussion. Any further questions or discussion at this time for this item? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the next agenda item at this time. I would like to invite members of the Transportation Safety Committee to report on ongoing safety-related project activities in their jurisdiction. So we will do a roll call and ask everybody at this time on if you have anything you'd like to report.
Actually, Mr. Chair, before we go into that, I was asked to convey something from FHWA, if I could at this time.
Yes, please.
Okay, this is from Jeff King. He wanted to remind everybody that there's a U.S. Limits 2 workshop tomorrow. I believe I forwarded the flyer that has the link to sign up. Even though it's tomorrow, it looks like they still have enough room for anyone that wants to attend. So that was forwarded to you all just before this meeting. So if you're interested in that, look for that email from me and Jeff King. And with that, we can go ahead and I'll, as I call you, if you have any items, please feel free to unmute and let us know. Carrie Wilcoxon, any report?
The only thing that I had to report that I don't think I really talked about on the other presentation was we are getting ready to finalize the bottleneck RSAs that we are conducting in the Valley here, where we looked at, I believe it was 13 location segments on the state highway system in the Valley that had congestion-related crashes, and we're looking at what can be done, what can be implemented either low cost or long term to maybe relieve some of the congestion and by connection relieve some of the crashes. So the RSAs are done. We are looking at the reports now, and we're coming up with our formal responses. So we will be able to report out on that hopefully sometime in the near future. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Carrie. Shane Kiso?
Yeah, we're coming off of a busy 2020 year in construction, even despite the pandemic. I think we're even more busy just taking advantage of lower traffic volumes. But just an idea of some of those safety improvements that we've done related to our CIP projects. On Apache Trail, we just recently lengthened some left turn bays on our Apache Trail downtown. So we took advantage to do that. Also on portions of Southern and Baseline, we installed a shared left turn lane just to mitigate some of that traffic behavior that we're seeing with people dodging, swerving around left turn traffic. So we did that. But then also impressively, we added about 5-6 more lane miles of bike lanes with our projects this year. And for the last few years, we've added over 10 lane miles of bike lanes in the city. And that goes with our focus for pedestrians as well as bicycle traffic along with our equestrian traffic that we have in Apache Junction. So that'll be my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. John Willett?
Nothing to report from Buckeye.
Thank you. Raymond?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Chris Salas?
Sorry about that. Nothing to report at this time.
Okay, thank you, and welcome again. Aaron Pinkerton?
Not too much to report. We did have our groundbreaking for the interchange at Lindsay and the 202. That'll be a long project coming, but that will kind of relieve some of the traffic congestion we're seeing in the adjacent interchanges.
Thank you, Aaron. Tony?
You call me Margaret, Tony?
I did.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So for us, I only have one item as we did a recent pedestrian study right around 53rd Avenue and Camelback, and it looks like it does warrant a hawk up there. So we'll be looking to fund that project in the near future. So that's the only thing that I have.
Thank you, Tony. Matthew Reed had to ring off, so we will go to Mazen.
Nothing from Maricopa County today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan?
Yeah, real quickly for the city of Mesa, we were fortunate to have a transportation bond passed back in November. And as part of that bond, there's a good portion of safety projects that will come out of it that are previously identified through a whole bunch of different network screening processes. So just wanted to mention that that bond did pass and it's starting to roll now as a program. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Ryan. Brandon Forey?
Just want to announce that we just had a kickoff meeting recently for a corridor safety study. We're using Y2K as our on-call traffic engineers. We're going to be looking at a segment of Olive Avenue from the Loop 101 to 99th Avenue, where we switch over from Peoria to Maricopa County. We're primarily going to be looking at a new traffic signal at Peoria's 99th Avenue, which is 99th Avenue and 98th Lane, depending on which leg, and also median modifications for additional turn restrictions at a local street intersection that's close to the 101 at 93rd Avenue. But we're also going to be looking at other things such as pedestrian bicycle accommodations and other access management concerns along that corridor.
Thanks, Brandon. And a report from Phoenix, Carl?
City of Phoenix, as always, we are busy doing lots of items related specifically to pedestrian safety. I believe this past calendar year, we installed 16 new additional hawks. We have 6 currently in design, and I believe another 6 in kind of a preliminary planning stage at this point. Also, an item of note, later this week, we will be taking kind of a comprehensive safety report to our Citizens Transportation Commission. That's all we have at this time.
Thank you, Carl. Tara Hartman, Pinal County.
Margaret, I believe Tara had a chat in the chat box.
Oh, and I see one from Tom. Sorry about that. It's a little difficult for me to track the chat while running the presentation.
Yeah. So
Okay, she had to skip out, but it looks like Tom Peterson says that the I-10 and Fairway interchange just opened yesterday in Avondale, located between Dysart and Avondale Boulevard interchanges, and that his mic isn't working. So, thank you for that update, Tom. And those of you West Valley travelers will probably have noticed that. So, okay, how about Mohammed Youssef?
Yeah, there's no comments.
Sam Taylor? Any report from Scottsdale?
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, sorry about that. We're having some mic difficulties. I wanted to report that we recently completed our first roadway safety program project at Scottsdale Road and Palm Lane. We installed a hawk there. We've also got 2 others going through construction process right now, and 2 more in design. So we've been ramping up our installation of hawks as well.
Thank you, Sam. I also like to congratulate Sam for being the first successful to submit their reimbursement request through the RSP program, and to thank the rest of you for your patience as we kind of work through some kinks. It's been, and I just wanted to make sure that you all are aware that we are very happy to kind of host a one-on-one with our TIP group that's going to be processing those reimbursement requests. So if you need a little bit of help with your request, please reach out to me and we can organize that at your request. How about Dana?
Hi, everybody. We've completed our RSP project, Bell and Litchfield, as well as all of the conversion on the Bell corridor, and we're moving to Dysart and Greenway next. So you should see our reimbursement soon, Margaret. Thank you for all the help on that.
You're welcome. Kathy Hollow?
Nothing to report today, thank you.
Okay. And it looks like that is all for those who were in attendance, Mr. Chair. If I forgot anybody, please feel free to unmute and let us know if you have a report.
Thank you, everyone. It's nice to hear of all the good safety items that are happening throughout the region. Our next item today is request for future agenda items. Does any member of the Transportation Committee have topics or issues of interest that you'd like to have considered for discussion at a future meeting? Now is your time to please unmute yourself and let us know. You can also send an email to myself or Margaret as well on that if you have some interest. Okay, hearing none, we will move to the next item. That is our next meeting of the Transportation Safety Committee will be held at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, March 23rd. And we will again be virtual with everybody, and we will see you there. Well, hear from you at least. So with that, the meeting is now adjourned, and thank you all for attendance.
Thank you, Carl. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Be safe.
You too.
Enjoy the rain.